Attention, Outer Galactic Space Team. Attention, Outer Galactic Space Team 42. This is Robotic Probe 4-3840, serial number 21340. Operating software is 4-.340, Revision A-9. This report is being simultaneously broadcast in the 42,372 known languages of the galactic sphere, including the telekinetic frequencies. The following report is based on 2,000 revolutions of the elementary container, representing 26.6 life cycles of the observed species. In this third report, it is observed that the species remain parasitic in their nature. Species subsist on the contents of the gases provided within the container. They also feed upon the container and other life species in their forms of their nature-based units of carbohydration. While little has changed within the container of the species have depleted the container somewhat in their activities. The species advancement, or as they refer to advancement, the most elementary and primitive of desires within any species, that being self-fulfillment and, of course, competitiveness amongst themselves. The threat report remains at 0. The species still are confined to their bubble, the bubble being their immediate gases of usage and depletion thereof if they leave their sphere. During the last 2,000 revolutionary cycles of their sphere, the species has managed to somewhat escape the bubble by only a few thousand miles. However, this is very temporary, as supplies are needed from that bubble, and they must return immediately upon depletion of those supplies. Intelligence remains primitive. Unfortunately, they have not developed, nor seem to have responded to the results of our experimentation. The teachings of our greatest ambassador that we have sent into this vessel continues to remain as an adjunct worship. Unfortunately, the results of our experimentation has resulted in physical structures, divine worshipping, and sacrifice. They did not adhere to the prerequisite knowledge that they were given. Rather, they seem to have followed our ambassador and worship him, rather than follow and worship the ideologies that he has instructed them. A great many deaths and confusion has resulted from these species' confusion over the teachings. Our experimentation doesn't seem to be fruitful in discovering any of our roots within this species. It does not seem to enhance our social structure at this time. However, more study is recommended. Perhaps there could be change, for there are a few, 0.00004%, who seem to understand a portion of the instructions that were given to them. The species tends to develop along DNA structural lines. If opposing species does not have the correct DNA, then it must be either destroyed or conquered in ideologies. While it is impossible to relate to our species, be it known that these species can become extinct or perish, usually at their own hands, over an ideology or a competitive advantage, both sociologically or ideologically based on religious or false worshipping. Still, there are other perishable constants, one of those being rage or jealousy over what seems to be what they think are personal values or emotional responses to the opposite DNA structures. It is recommended highly that communication be restrained at all cost at this time. These species are not ready for advanced sociological instruction, nor can they comprehend our values, let alone our spiritual interactive relationships amongst one another. Foremost theme amongst the personalities of the species seems to be amongst the species, not to the higher social orders, most of all to our prime directive. While we seek to perfect this value, they seem to be wallowing within the same social structures that they have in the past. It seems, in fact, many of these species actually have created electronic visual imagery that they can enhance their one another's social structures by watching DNA mating occur, or violence, or consuming of other species seems to be of great entertainment value to them. they seem to take great sport in destroying other life forms so as to consume them for dietary entertainment purposes. While it is hard to comprehend, once again one must be reminded that the species exist for approximately 75 revolutions around their solar star, and then perish. Of course, all their importance has perished with them, for their importance does not seem to be of permanency. The infinitum that we enjoy seems impossible to them at this particular time, at least in their physiological, intellectual organ. This could be related to a simple blink of a moment, as their life passes in the species, and yet nothing seems to be gained from any of their learning or past experience at this particular time. The span of their life continues as is for the immediate physical usage. They fail to see the futility of this they call life. Rather than cooperation, competition seems to remain still paramount within the races and the species and the interbreeding and the DNA structures among this vessel, so much so that they play sport. Some sports go beyond just the competitive advantages of physical brutality, but actually result in death, overtake the other one's camp, and make their structure of social order theirs. They paint heroes of those who conquer or maybe destroy the other species in the name of their religion, or perhaps their, what they call, political entities. And yet the insanity of this repetition continues upon this vessel. They have what they call monetary. These are monetary devices to which some people can live better with others, like a point system. It's given in paper or on electronic media. For those people who compete best, or fake, within entertainment to other people, they are largely rewarded for their insincerities. This is a confused species, a species that seems not to be able to be taught or lessoned through experiences nor through teachings. Perhaps given 2,000 more cycles, or 26.6 lifetimes, we can review the subject matter once again with the species. However, at this time, it is not a pertinent suggestion whatsoever to make any contact, nor to attempt any more further development. Time, by definition, on their standards, is a relationship, a relativity. As we know, time does not exist, but for these species, they feel that time is an actual substantive thing, and continue along those patterns and along those lines in which to order and live their lives. It must be noted, it seems as though the most popular of the species' personalities are respected as great knowers. It just seems that if you are popular, you're knowledgeable. If you're well known among the race of species, you must have some insight. As we know, the quietest ones, the least of the species, are perhaps the most enlightened, and perhaps the ones we wish to emulate. They do not. They wish to emulate their social leaders, their well-known personalities, their religious leaders, what they call political, which is their social leaders, or their philosophers that are spoken and make much monetary value of publications in their primitive written words. In conclusion, before ending this broadcast, to their benefit, there are great people who use their intellectual organ to research and reach out for other species of greater intellectual values. Hopefully they will discover the spiritual values and the connectors within, the vibratories, the communicators that are built into their higher levels. If in fact their physical sciences can prove these higher levels, perhaps an advancement will come rapidly. This is the end of the broadcast. If there are further updates, remain to channel 4-434-4, and I will communicate them to you. This is Robotic Series 48-3-1, signature password 4203ABCDE, broadcasting live, telepathically, and verbally. End of the report and this broadcast.